What is good, YouTube? And today we are going to be talking about Liliam and her banner after it's almost been a day actually since she's been out, and I think people have somewhat tested her and are still figuring things out. But I just want to talk about my first impressions after using her in PvE and PvP and watching other people use her as well. Now, this character, at first glance, when she first came out, everyone thought she would be a crazy character. She has very high base attack and speed. She has this S3 that hits very hard, 750% damage, with an attack and speed buff for herself, which is great. She also ignores shield and will seal the target's max HP based off the damage dealt, which is basically reducing your max HP. On top of that, she has this really good S2, which is an execute, does more damage the lower the target is. Also will stun the target if they're below 70% health, ignoring effect resistance. If you kill the enemy, you stun everyone, which sounds also very crazy as well, right? You soften up a character with your S3, then you S2 and kill them, and you stun everything, right? That just seems like the normal loop in her gameplay and how it will play. Then we have her S1, which is also a great ability. You just do damage, you heal for the damage dealt, so you have lifesteal, and you're immune to all control and turn meter as your passive, which is crazy, crazy strong, right? And I think, at first glance, it's very obvious looking at her S1 that she's going to be a very good answer to control characters, but I think a lot of people also thought that she'd be very good into bruisers and be good into bruiser versus bruiser matchups, which she's definitely usable in, but I think she's more disappointing than, people expected because of the fact that she doesn't really do as much damage as you'd think. Now, the biggest thing isn't really her damage for me. I think the biggest thing, which actually hinders her a lot, is the fact that she's kind of relegated to this CC counter role because her HP seal is very, very weird. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to show you this picture here. You can see the left is when a Tiamat's S1ing me on the first turn of a battle without me HP sealing. And the second one is her hitting me with me HP sealing. And you can see if you add up the damage, it is pretty similar, right? And I actually tested this again in a more broader spectrum. So I went into another battle with one of my guildmates and we tested it again. You'll see at the bottom here that the damage is going to be with no S3 on the left. In the middle, it's going to be with me having one S3 on Tiamat, which is basically minus 10k HP for the Tiamat. And on the right, it's the second S3, which is going to be minus pretty much 20k HP, which is almost having his Tiamat's HP, right? And then at the top, of course, Etheria effect, we can't really manipulate it. It's going to boost their damage by 20%. But this most stunning thing is you don't really notice the differences in the damage. Sure, maybe there's 100, 200 difference, and I do think it is reducing the damage somewhat by reducing Tiamat's max HP. But the biggest problem is actually that it's not noticeable. And because Etheria boosts your damage so quickly, you're going to notice that you're just going to end up eventually getting one shot even on Bloodbath, which is very, very sad. So I think Liliam, character-wise, she definitely feels on the weaker side, and I think, there are people that are still testing her and making her work, but I think more so than an all-around character, which she definitely seemed to be, right? If you look at her skills, she looks like, a nuker that's stunning and healing and immune to CC. She's actually just mostly going to be a character that you're going to pick later into PvP drafts to counter CC and turn meter characters, right? Which is pretty sad because I kind of wanted to make her work in bruiser versus bruiser, but it seems like she's a bit lackluster, whether it be because we still didn't find out the builds or she just really is. But after the first day of testing, that's definitely what I felt. And in PvE, I see a lot of mixed results. I showed you that one shot earlier where she is just popping off, S3ing and then diting S3s, and then Liliam finishes off with her S2. But I think the lattice requirement for this is pretty much maxed in everything, and probably some dupes as well. And it's going to be, not really worth it for free-to-play players. You might as well use diting at that point for PvE. So I don't think it's really good to look at her as a PvE character, which kind of sucks, right? Because she's an SSR. Now, this is my Liliam. You can see I have invested quite a bit into her. It's 525. I do plan to max it out anyways, just to test her out more. But basically, there's a lot of different setups you can run. People are running her on Bloodbath. People are running her on, just full damage. People are running her on cleave setups. So I think people are still trying to see where she's best in. And for shells, most people are running, count. Some people are running codex. I think it's hard to definitively say if she's good or bad right now, but I think, similar to the Yelly situation, similar to the Hoyan situation, people always tend to look at what she lacks first. But, she definitely doesn't seem like a useless unit. In PvP, she definitely has uses. So if you already pulled for her, don't worry. She fills a really good niche where she's countering control and turn meter teams. And even if you don't think this is anything, there's like, Doki Doki and like, for example, Ling Luo, which can do this. The thing is, in high RTA and PvP, not even like high PvP, right? Control players know this, so they end up banning one and picking the other. Or if they ban one and you pick the other, what ends up happening is they'll just ban it. So having this third option is actually very important in control matchups. And once everyone starts shifting to this bruiser playstyle, you're gonna see that control is a big issue against bruisers. Control completely crapped on bruisers in the past before the nerfs to Rev, and even now it's gonna be really good. So definitely still gonna be a decent PvP character. She always will have this niche, but I think definitely she needs some help. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a build thing, but she feels really weak in terms of countering other bruisers just because her HP seal doesn't seem to do enough. And in PvE, yeah, like I said, you might as well just use Dieting because the damage is comparable, and at that point, if you are looking for a good PvE unit, you might as well not invest into her because you're wasting gold lattices at that point, and Dieting does the same thing, right, in terms of damage. For PvE, of course. Now, that being said, it's not the end of the world because her banner you still do want to summon on. And the reason is because, and actually you don't always want to summon on this banner, but if you're missing Lily, you want to summon on this. And that's because Nilou is an amazing SR support. She isn't Lily exactly, but in some areas of content, you'll see that she's even better than Lily. I actually showcased her in Doki Doki in Aurora, and she's very good there. She actually makes my runs faster than if I had Lily in her place. It's mostly because she pushes your teammate, she has healing, she has this very powerful speed buff that's 100% uptime. Lily's isn't 100% uptime. And you also have this vulnerable debuff, which is just increasing the damage you do by 30%, which is crazy, crazy strong. So I think Nilou is definitely worth going for from the banner. So, if you are new to the game, you should still try to get Nilou. Of course, she is available from the permanent summon, so if you want to wait longer and save your golden discs, which is definitely a viable strategy, you can just pull for the permanent banner to try to get her because she is in the pool already. If I can actually find her down here, you can see she's here. But if you do want to get her ASAP because you don't have Lily and you're struggling to progress into Inferno content, she is a very good unit. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about Liliam, sort of, kind of, not really, but I think a lot of people were disappointed in her performance, but I'm still going to be testing her out and see what builds are best for her. I do think she definitely has a place in the PvP meta for sure, but in PvE, you probably don't want to use her for the most part unless you're going for one-shot comps in some areas. But just looking at the ladder here, you can see we do have some people actually using her in Summon Arena, but for the most part you're not going to see as much presence, mostly because, like I mentioned, she is a niche character, a counter pick, and she is getting banned a lot as well when you pick her into control. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video though, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about her. I already know most of you guys are going to say you are very disappointed in her, but just let me know why you are disappointed in her and what you think needs to be buffed.